G'day everyone. Today we're looking at a pretty bad oil leak from the passenger side rear axle oil seal. It's dripping down onto the disc, all over the rims and making a mess everywhere. So let's get in, see what's causing it, have a chat about oil seals, how they work, and then get everything cleaned up and back together. Sit tight and follow along. What have we here? Looking pretty wet in there. Lots of oil everywhere. So let's get the wheel off and have a look. Wow, what a mess. Time to degrease and clean it up. Oh, look at that, gunky. Pretty bad axle oil leak everywhere. Down onto the backing plate. And I noticed this wheel's really stiff to turn when I was playing with the wheel, but it looks like the axle itself turns pretty easily, but the disc is all bound up on all the accumulated gunk back there. So once we fix this, brakes will of course be heaps better, but maybe some fuel economy too. Okay, here we go, got the caliper off. It's all caked up and gunky in there. And the caliper itself is full of presumably road dirt and sand and all kinds of gunk mixed in with axle oil. So we'll keep stripping this down. What a mess. Have a look at that. All the handbrake shoes, everything fully covered. Tons of oil behind there. And in the drum here as well, so I don't know, that's very good. And the pads, that worn on there, so that'd be the outside on a massive taper. Oh, the other side, that's pretty even, but obviously still caked in oil and gunk. It's always worth using a flare nut tube spanner on these things. This particular one was pretty seized, and holding one side with the vice grip and working it with the tube spanner really got it moving without rounding off the nut. So this worked out pretty well, but could have turned ugly pretty quick. Oh, look at that. We've got the wheel hub and bearing assembly off the end, and this is what's behind. This is the bit I love the most. Getting in and having a look and seeing what's wrong. And first thing is, you can see the O-ring that normally sits up here has come out over. I think that's just dropped down when I've pulled the axle end off, because you can see that it was sitting there. So I think that's just becomes dislodged. But interesting, you can also see the garter spring here, which is meant to be on the axle oil seal, has become fully dislodged. And the lip of the seal is pretty worn down here. It's pretty flat. Normally they sort of stand up a little bit like that with the help of the garter spring, but that looks pretty flat. Focus. So let's come over and have a look and see what a new one looks like. Here we go. Here's a new oil seal, and look at the difference there. You can see that it has this, there's the garter spring at the back there, and you can see it has a pretty pronounced seal lip that folds upwards to seal against the wear ring on the axle. And if we compare that to what's in there at the moment, you can see it looks square on in and square on in. Huge difference. So it looks like it's lost the garter spring at the back there, and this lip is just worn flat, not giving any seal. whereas normally it would stand up like that. So if we have a look at the axle, let's go. The axle. And this is the seal wearing here, and the wheel speed sensor down here, or the encoder and the sensor. And what we see here, this black line here is the wear, and there's a little bit of a groove there. You can feel it with your fingernail. It is definitely there, but we'll have to make a call on whether we replace it or not. And here's the seal. Just make this lip here a little bit lubricated with some axle oil. Let's see how it slides on. There we go. Oh, it's dropped down a little bit too far. So here's the seal. Over the wear ring. It's hard to do this one-handed. Yeah. And that's roughly where it sits. And we can see that whichever way it goes, it's got a pretty good seal on there. So, put the camera down and have a bit of a closer look at this groove and see if it's going to affect it. Okay, so all cleaned up, and we can see, well, when I say all cleaned up, I mean inside here, not yet here. So the seal wearing's got a little minor groove in there. Just because I'm a bit pushed for time today, gonna throw the dice and put it back. But one thing that is really important while it's all out is to clean around this connector here, because that was quite gummed up with sand and all kinds of things. So when we plug it back in, that it goes back in nicely. So I've cleaned up all around there, making sure everything else is okay here. I'll clean up the rest of that before it goes back. And also just down here, you can see that the splines are in good condition. No real discernible wear on there, which is good as well. So it's good to go back in for a bit. Over here on the axle flange, there's a little bit of corrosion around the flange here, which I'll get all cleaned up. You can see that the seal is pressed in here, basically flush with the face, or the chamfer that comes into here, or the step that's here. And what I can do is I'll look right in here, see there's a bit of a gap. I think that's a gap there from the back of the seal to this shoulder. And if that's the case, then I can position the seal a little bit differently to how it was before, and hopefully get this lip running on a different surface, an unworn surface on that seal wearing. So if you're following it along at home, here's a good way to get it out. Just a standard cold chisel up behind the lip there, a couple of taps down here with a hammer, and pops out. That's one I removed earlier. So pretty good clean seal surface in there. Unfortunately the seal does sit right up against the counterbore there, or almost, actually, no. Right, so having a look down here, we can see this black line up here. Looks like the seal wasn't all the way down into the shoulder, because if I rub that, you can see it disappears. So that's a line where all the deposits from the old axle oil was sitting, and it's left that mark. So it means that I can push this, or the new one of these, all the way back down to the shoulder, and get a better wear surface on the seal wearing. The other thing I've done is run a file over here. So with these flanges, it's better that it's flat and clean. It doesn't need to be shiny, and much better to use a long file across all of these areas here to keep it nice and straight. There's always that temptation if you're using emery, especially with your fingers, you start targeting all these shadows, which are a little bit of a low spot, and then they become more of a low spot because you've really scrubbed at them until they look clean and shiny. Whereas it's more important that it's flat than shiny. So this is all cleaned up, give it a wipe down, put the new seal in, and we're good to go back in. Right, axle slid in, a little bit of anti-seize on the studs. We got the nuts all cleaned up. I like doing it this way so that all the degreaser falls into the tray, and then they can clean up whatever else in there. Wipe down tools, and we're ready to put this back. Rightio, time to put the handbrake back. And so there's the new handbrake shoes there and there. And there's all the bits roughly in the order that they came off. That's the adjuster, so it's actually down here. All looks about correct. So over here we've got the receiver for the dog bone, the holes here for this washer shim, the receiver here for the handbrake adjuster, and over here, same thing, same pattern, same hole location, adjuster. There's the pivot for the handbrake cable mechanism, so I'll get that off, clean it up and move it over to there. And then, as they say in the Haynes manual, installation is the reverse of removal. So after getting it all apart, turns out I was only half right. I thought this stud would just come out after getting the circlip off, but it doesn't. I've chosen the wrong shoe on this side. There is one that has a stud on it already. So this one, there's that one. And one more correction, I had it flipped before. The giveaway is this rounded corner here. Sorry, so this rounded receiver here matches with the rounded one over there. The dog bone slot, and then the adjuster, much better, and then the spring here, which is that one. And here we are, new handbrake shoes, all the handbrake springs and mechanism all fitted up, cleaned, ready to all go back together. And here's the brake caliper holder. Look what happens when you expose the rubber to solvents. So the one on the right is swollen and the one on the left is brand new. And so we've given the disc a bit of a scrub up, cleaned up. It's not in the best condition, but it'll do for now. All the oil and everything like that's been cleaned off, and a little bit of a scrub up on the brake disc surface. And here we are, all back together. So I hope you found it interesting. Stay tuned and see you on the next one.